Hi and welcome to bonus lesson for volume 2. We will talk about depth of field, which is sometimes misunderstood in Cinema 4D, and I only want to say that this scene comes with Cinema 4D, so you can find it in your content browser here. This scene is provided by Nam from Happy Ship and it's copyrighted, so bear that in mind. The advantage of this scene is has free characters where you will really have an opportunity to see how depth of field works. Prior to actually doing anything, I have to explain what the depth of field is. To put it simply, it's a way to blur the parts of your image and, on the other hand, to put focus on something in your image. You can see that effect and in the nature when you look at, for example, through the window. You will see the features outside, but you can actually focus on the window itself, on the glass itself, and the features outside will be blurred. That is exactly what we are trying to do here inside this scene. I have to decide what will be in focus and what will be blurred. So, with a little help of Doodle, I want this guy here to be in focus. And this front guy, I want him to be blurred, so we will concentrate on this character. Okay? Depth of field is often utilized to emphasize something in your scene. Let me clear that and we will start first. We have to have camera because it won't work, and the second condition we have to meet is we have to enable the depth of field in the render settings. We will enable our camera and now we are ready to go. Okay, so the main thing now is to tell this camera where is our target, where do we want our focus plane, our focal plane to be placed. And you can see this little gizmo I added in the head-up display in the viewport, and it will tell me the distance from anything I select in the viewport. For example, I can select maybe say this guy, and it will tell me how much is that object away from camera. Since we want to focus this guy here, we will use this value as our distance. You can get this information in viewport by going Edit, Configure All, and here under HUD you can enable this camera distance along with many things that can help you while you are working. So let's select our camera, and here in the depth, this target distance has to be the number that you can read from here. Okay? So let's round it up to 1800 and enter that as our target distance. And let's do a test render and see what will happen. And actually nothing happened because we haven't activated any of these blur options. So let me just enable this front blur for now and see what do we get. And you can see something changing. So our object here is in focus and the object here, this guy here, is blurred. If I go to my top view, you will understand it more clearly. Here you can actually drag your focal plane to some position that you feel it is good. So the way this works is like this. Everything from camera to here will be blurred. So everything in front of camera is blurred, and the farther as it goes to this focal plane, it will be crisp and clear. And with this start and end guy, you can actually control where those blurs end. But beware, this region is always blurred, and this it starts from the focal plane to this end value you can control, and you can control in the next manner. You can control it with these gradients. And by gradients I mean the black will represent completely crisp and sharp, and full white will represent full blur. So you can control this area here. It's really simple to understand. Other than that, we have some other options here, and they are really simple to pick up. Let me just disable this. So let's browse through this option. This blur strength is really simple to understand. It means how much of that blur. This distance blur, it's some sort of a refining feature for this blur strength, and it will behave according to this. And I recommend this leaving this always on and experiment with percentage here. This background blur means if you have a background object with some sort of a texture, then it won't be calculated into blur until you check this box here. This radial blur, I can demonstrate that with the doodle tool. This radial blur means that the center of your scene, I love this tablet that I have, this new fancy toy, that the center of your scene will be in focus, and the more it extends toward the ends of the screen, it will be blurred, and here you will control the amount of that blur. Let me clear the doodle frame. And this guy, this out of focus, it works somewhat like a digital camera you have possibly at home. But here it will automatically focus on the center of your scene and blur the rest accordingly. I have to admit I don't use that feature almost never. Aside to that, we have a lens option. And just briefly, when you have a blurred image, you can create artifacts with your lens settings here. So the parts that are blurred and overexposed will bleed or create some sort of an artifacts, and that is really simple to understand, and it is explained really good in the help system. This tint option is really interesting. Let's use the tint and do a test render. And now you can actually see that the depth of field is a post effect. It happens after the render. You can tint the environment. So you can actually create some sort of a haze effect and maybe add some bluish colors. Let's try something like that. You can use ranges. Use actual camera ranges that you have set here in the front and rear blur, and that's about it. It's not difficult to understand. Let's just activate the rear blur. So we will blur also this guy here in the back. So you have to play with this start and end value while using gradients here on the basic tab to achieve variations in blurriness. I hope that shed some light on depth of field in Cine 4D, and see you in the next bonus lesson.